Hey everyone, let's talk about one of the most powerful step components on the OPZ, and that is jump zero. So this could be a bit of a game changer, but my main assumption here is that you don't want to sequence modular or do anything else that would use the gate command externally. And in that case, you can take advantage of it internally. So here's how it works. What I'm going to do for my first, this is just going to be a series of examples. For my first example, I'm going to show you how to kind of toggle delay. So just for this example, I'll put a C major chord here. Do I want to do more? Yeah, let's do a D major 7th. Why do I not know this? Oh, this is D minor, that's why. D minor 7th, that's why it didn't make sense. Okay, so I'm going to do C major, D minor. Okay, pretty mediocre. And let's add in like a 4 on the floor type of kick and a snare on the 2 and 4. Why not? Again, nothing fantastic, but what I'm going to demonstrate here is let's go to this FX track. I'm going to set the step length to 0. So that means it's only going to advance the sequencer when there's a jump 0 or it receives a gate from something external. That's kind of like beyond me, but when you hit play on one of these tracks, if it never receives a gate, the sequencer will stay back here. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you if I say, what if it advances, what if I just have it advance, here we go, when those chords hit. So in this way you can get tracks to go at kind of a different rate, and this is helpful with both the control tracks, which we'll start with, as well as with the audio tracks. So now we've got it advancing through this, but it really isn't doing anything, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to apply some parameter locks. I'm going to keep it at 3 for the actual speed of the delay, but here I'm going to, let's increase the filter, and let's just play with some of these parameters and just see what happens if we do all of this. Oh, you know what also is very helpful is if there's actually a send from the track I'm listening to. So I just added a chord send by hitting shift and pressing the chords track. So it's not beautiful, but my point here is that you can sequence the effects track and have different sections, have different effects settings by adding parameter locks and having it only advance occasionally. So that was advancing pretty quickly. And so what I want to show you here is this still has the jump 0. This one doesn't anymore. I'm going to have it only do that the first of every 2. So here's what it'll look like. Not like a perfect musical example, but hopefully you can think of some other ways you could apply this. I'm going to go ahead and clear all the parameter locks off of this track by holding record and shift, and I'm going to remove that send from the chords track. The next example is going to be on the master track. Maybe you already see this coming, but you could use this as a way to queue up. Okay, so let's go ahead and set the length to 0, but you can use this as a way to queue up changes in the filter, changes in the drive or the chorus, and changes in what chord it's on. So again, you press play, and it starts here and then immediately advances here because on that first step here, we have that jump 0. And so I'm just going to have this be C, and then the next time it comes around, let's have it shift down to B flat. Why not? It thinks that we're in C Mixolydian, go figure. It always does. One thing that happens is that sometimes it depends on when it advances. So this advanced at the same time as the chord, so you'll hear that it didn't actually transpose the first one. You could always set it so that the gate is at the 16th step or something, but you may just have to play around with it a bit. Okay, so now we're going to get a bit weirder with it. I just established that it works with component spark, and I established that it works, with the master track transposition as well as with the parameter locks. Think about the motion track too. I've had some struggles when I've used the motion track, but I have found it to be much easier to use if I set it to step length 0, because then I can just have whatever event on whichever track be the thing that advances this. So it's very tightly synchronized, in my opinion. More so, maybe more so than with MIDI control, but I don't know. I make no promises there. Okay, so I'm not actually going to do an example on this because I'm using my phone to record, so you can't actually see the results of this. But let's move on to the audio tracks. So this is where we're going to get kind of weird with it. I'm going to set, in this case, let's actually set the lead track to 0. And the chords track will still be the one that advances it. And one thing I want to show you that I find kind of fascinating is, let's say that we just want to... So you might think it's only going to play these every time it comes around to that chords track. And you're right. But you can also make this advance itself. So if I add a jump 0 to each of these, that means that basically each time it gets cued by that by the chords track, it's going to play all 5 of these notes. And further, if I want to reduce the step count to 6, it's going to start here at the end of the step count. It's going to go up here, and this one is even going to have it move here, and it's just going to repeat this 5-note phrase every time that it reaches that, every time that jump 0 is triggered by the chords track. So in this way, you could have it cue up a melody or a sample, and it doesn't have to start at the beginning of a track. It doesn't have to go at the same speed every time. Let me show you what I mean. So one thing I find kind of fascinating is that jump 0 responds to pulse. So this is at pulse 4. I'm going to go back to this track, and I'm actually just going to go ahead and clear, I held shift and stop, so I cleared all the step components. And it still played these first 4 because it pulsed this 4 times. And this track is going at a speed of 1/16 per step. If I change that to 4, it's going to advance that slower. Oops. So hopefully you can see what I mean by that. This also means that if I have, let's say I have this one pulsing, let's say, let's go back to 4. And we have it only doing it on the first time. And then we have this track twice as fast. And let's have it advance this. Oh, geez, I guess it would have to be, we'll just go with the second time. Maybe it should be the third, though, because this is going to be going twice as fast. Oh, geez. All right, let's try the third. Oops, I pressed it too many times, so there we go. Now we're back, and it's going to happen on the third. Let's watch this track and see what happens. I'm going to reduce the step count to just 4, because that's the number of times that I have it advance. Oh, you know what else I realized I forgot? I have to go back to the bass track, and I have to add a pulse 4 here as well, just so that way it has the same number of counts for our example here. So back then to the lead. So each quarter note when it was triggered by the chords track, and the second it'll be triggered by the bass track, and it went twice as fast. So you can do it that way. You can have all these conditional things. If you wanted to, you could always have like a loop on the samples track or something like that and have this cue that. And so you can essentially make it like you could line up to 16 different things from a 12 seconds, 16 different slices from a 12-second sample and have it just kind of cycle through them. With the envelope, you can also adjust the start point of those samples too. So you really could do a lot gradually advancing with this technique. More confusing, or more complicated, I guess, is that it does, if I put like a pulse 2 on the track that has the step length 0, it will repeat it. So if I had it only do this once every, 4 passes, it would only play this note. It would stay on this one until it's finished with every time I've told it to pulse. Pulse hold's a bit weird. It plays the note for the full length, and then it continues to pulse it as though there was no hold afterward. Yeah, okay, so hopefully that's helpful. And then last thing I want to show you is pretty cool. I'm going to clear this track, and I'm going to change the step count to 16 again. Yeah, our step length is still 0. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use jump 9. And what's fascinating to me about jump 9 is that it'll bring, it'll bring the sequencer to wherever the other track that kind of called it is from. So I removed the pulse there because I don't need that right now. And what I'll do is I'm just going to add in, let's just add in like a jump 9 right there. So it's going to take a second to get to. In fact, I'm actually going to remove that component spark right there, so that way it goes faster. So it caught up. Once it got here, it caught up. Hopefully that makes sense. So you can kind of have it be, in that way, you can very quickly move this track to different spots along the sequencer by having jump 0 at certain steps on other tracks if you have this track set to step length 0. Okay, so I think that this really extends what you can do with patterns, because you could basically have multiple chord progressions using the jump techniques I've talked about, but then you could also have it be that every second time it goes through that, section A and section B, then it even advances the master track, which could transpose it, change the sound of it, whatever. You could have it, have like kind of a pre-chorus at the end of your verse by building up a delay or some other type of effect or something like that. There's just a lot that you can do, and I think it adds greatly to your OPZ's flexibility, as well as being able to synchronize all these. And on top of that, I showed what could happen individually, but you could also synchronize these if FX1, 2, the track, and the master are all step length 0, it'll advance all of those at the same time. Last thing, actually, one more thing. The ARP track just continues to amaze me. It can do so much. It can store 8 notes per step. It can do all sorts of stuff. And if you use step length 0, I'm still figuring out exactly how to do this, but I'm pretty sure then that you can parameter lock each of these to be a chord, a single note. You could have it be a ramp up, whatever, or you could have it be part of the ARP track. So I think that there's just a lot of potential here. Anyway, so I'm going to be covering some of the actually less advanced step components coming up in the near future. So thank you so much for watching, and let me know if you have any questions. Hopefully this helped you.